The form for Ripple's banking license amount has finally been made public. The first person I saw on X post this was Wrath Economin. This information needs to be looked over. We can pick out some details here, things we may not have known before. Now we have a plan for what Ripple wants to do and how much XRP will be worth in the future with their technology and national bank application. This is Ripple's OCC. First, thank you, Wrath Economin. Feel free to follow Wrath Economin if you're interested. Here is his name just in case. That should make it easy for you to find. I'll try to add it to the description. Says the first book of Ripple's application for an OCC banking license is now available to the public. There are some hints about Ripple's plans and organization in the application that you should think about. As we scroll down, we see that Ripple is asking to become a limited-purpose, OCC-regulated national trust bank. It would make it possible to store RLUSD reserves and run a regulated infrastructure for tokenized banking. Then he said, future Fed access ? It does say that Ripple Labs Inc., as a sponsor working through the named groups or leaders, wants to create the Ripple National Trust Bank. I know what you're thinking, Sensei. Can we open a Ripple bank account here? That doesn't really look like it. Look at this next line. So it won't be a store. As per the CRA, it does not apply to national banks that do not give money or accept deposits and whose only business is providing fiduciary services. There are no savings or loans. It's only business-to-business banking and infrastructure. You know what? When I read that, it kind of broke my heart because I really want to have an account at Ripple the bank. I believe that would be the coolest thing you could do, and it would make my heart very happy. That being said, Ripple might grow their business in the future once everything is worked out. But for now, we're out of luck. For RLUSD, this trust bank was built from the start, it says. Not a single word about XRP here. Ripple should keep XRP separate from the bank's legal application so that an OCC-supervised trust bank and a token are not confused at this point. Still, nothing stops XRP from being added in the future. Anyway, Ripple didn't put XRP here because you get a lot of pushback in the business world. There are many businesses that don't want Ripple to become a national bank in this country. They think that if many of these fintechs get banking licenses, it could put their banks at risk. Because of this, Ripple didn't want anything in the app that could slow them down. I totally get that. Tell me if you agree or if you think this should have been done a different way. I'd love to know what you guys think. Here are 5. This is interesting because it means that Ripple Labs owns the bank and is giving officials their own private stock. It's interesting that it's secret. A friend said that it's normal for companies that want to go public to do this. What does YMMV mean? Oh, your mileage may be different. Okay, that's interesting. Your mileage may be different. I'm not sure. Is that a proverb? Okay. Describe all stock benefit plans for the institution and holding company, such as stock options, stock warrants, and other similar stock-based compensation plans for top executives, organizers, directors, and other insiders. He is pointing this information out. Who wouldn't want some Ripple Bank stock? In short, he's saying that we already know Ripple wants a national banking charter so that it can set up a banking compliance subsidiary to handle the managing of tokenization. They don't want a license to send money or insurance for deposits. They would turn into real liquid infrastructure if Fed access was given to them. Another thing he does is talk about who will be working here. Here is the volume. In fact, it's quite vast. Let me go. There it is, the name at the end, John Zavilj. I don't know that person, but here's some more for you. So the applicant sponsor is Ripple, and a suggested bank needs to get in touch with people. Put them here. Type of application. This is the type of application. Goals and tasks. Some of that handling of reserves for the Ripple RLOS USD stablecoin was talked about. Trust and accounting services for digital assets and payment companies. Not for retail activities, but for businesses. Starting up operations, whether they're electronic or online. You won't be able to make community loans or take deposits from regular people. With its main office in New York, the company was also able to serve other U.S. and international markets. Here are the management and the director. John McDonald is going to be president. John Zavingia, he will be in charge of running the business and building trust. Scott Alderati will be the chief law officer from now on. Of course, Stuart Alderati, Timothy Keeney, who used to work at BNY Mellon, is the vice chairman. Don't you feel like, oh God, what business did you know that we saw John McDonald from? That just didn't work out for Timothy Keeney. I have nothing in mind. I'm truly sorry. David Puth is also here. He is an expert in financial markets and payment technology and is often seen as a tech leader. The board was then set up with 5 members who were all U.S. citizens. The next step is capitalization ownership with a single stock or class of stock and all shares owned by Ripple Labs. There will be no outside members, and the company will not use debt to pay for subscriptions. There will be no public or private offerings, and there will be no confidential exhibits that show the S company status plan, capital structure, and policies. It does talk about business technology and the building itself. It talks about the place itself. We talked about that a bit. All services will be sent online, which means electronic delivery. It does talk about outsourcing regulatory compliance, but no problems have been found with the activities that are allowed or that are being planned. And just a little more knowledge here. It's so cool to see this first book. That means there might be a second book in the future. With all of this news and information, it could be very interesting to see how XRP grows through Ripple. Can you picture the SEC case ending, XRP ETFs going live, spot ETFs going live, and Ripple getting their banking license all at the same time? Talk about it, and Ripple could also go public next year. Why aren't you bullish at this point? Lots of people are upset about XRP online all the time. How can you not be optimistic? Okay, Ripple and Stellar are at a roundtable talk with Natalie Yat Liang, who is the Undersecretary for Domestic Finance at the U.S. Department of the Treasury. It says that there will be a discussion on the technical and legal requirements for improving the old features of central bank money, as well as an examination of the possible effects on individuals, investors, and companies. They also talked about the long-term plans for how CBDCs and tokenization will work together. Isn't it interesting? These are the meetings I love that he put his own Twitter name here. That's interesting. For Ripple, Lauren Believe is in charge of public policy and government. I love how she is sitting at the same table as the Undersecretary for Domestic Finance. Stellar is also here, but know where these people are. Yes, there are no Solana people in the rooms with the Fed. I don't. Yes, you might be able to tell me where to find those if there is. But think about the top 10, 50, or 100 cryptocurrencies. Many of you have worked with the IMF, the BIS, or the government. How many of you were asked to the World Economic Forum and discussed your work with the Federal Reserve in the US? I think we've all been there at some point, so maybe that could be used where we are all, but here are some of the links in case you aren't aware of them. Ripple's bid for a Federal Reserve MasterCard is something we talked about in the National Bank Charter. For some background, from 2015 to 2017, Ripple was a part of the Federal Reserve's Faster Payments Task Force, which worked to update the U.S. payment system with faster, cheaper, and safer options. With RippleNet, Ripple's focus is on fixing flaws in global payments, which is shown by its inclusion. Keep in mind that Ripple was the only company asked to this working group that builds blockchain infrastructure. That's interesting, right? Deals between Ripple and the U.S. government. Ripple has been talking to U.S. officials like the Fed, the SEC, and the Treasury for a long time about XRP and how its blockchain technology can be used for payments. Ripple made a deal with FinCEN, the U.S. Treasury's financial crime arm, in 2015 to follow the rules. Since August 2025, there has been no official government partnership in this area. However, Ripple is having a great time right now. You'll also love this great movie. It's hard to believe that it will be able to capture the value of the internet. But guys, I just wanted to make that point. This is the internet of value that XRP is actually collecting. We talk about how much value will change all the time. What does it mean, though, to capture the value of an internet protocol from a useful point of view? No, not a payment network or a huge payment plan like that. Just the internet, guys. This is unbelievable. It's hard to believe that it will be able to capture the value of the internet. That's why I don't think it's crazy when people say, oh, each token could be worth 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, or 20,000 rupees. A lot of people, I know, think it's crazy. Not really, though, because you're taking advantage of the value of the internet and everything will be tokenized in the end. I made a movie about how much value will be turned into tokens in the next few decades. It's crazy to think about how much value has already been tokenized and how much value is still to come. $4 quadrillion worth of value will be turned into tokens and put on the blockchain over the next 10 to 20 years. It's clear that time frame could be shortened if countries work together more. When you sell something, for example, how does that title work? How does that move from one person on the chain to another? And do those kinds of sales even count in some countries? These are the kinds of things that are stopping tokenization from moving forward. You really need cash too. To handle all of these bigger numbers, you also need AMMs, very deep pools, and all of these other use cases to be much bigger. It's clear that RLUSD would also need to grow a lot more. Finally, there would need to be enough money on the XRP system, but there are people here who work very hard to learn more about what's going on with Ripple and XRP around the world, and people don't think enough of it. To be clear, you mean the EVM sidechain, right? You're talking about the IPO of Ripple. Over the next 6 to 12 months, a lot of things will happen as you talk. It seems like people aren't ready for all of these changes.